ballot and then let them go vote. And if the system is as good as they say it is, then obviously they won't be able to vote. It sounds like he's encouraging people to break the law and try to vote twice.
Well, I don't know exactly what he was saying, but it seems to me what he's saying is he's trying to make the point that the ability to monitor this system is not good. And if it was so good, if you tried to vote a second time, you would be caught if you voted in person.
That would be illegal if they did that. If somebody mailed in a ballot and then actually showed up to vote in person, that would be illegal.
I don't know what the law in the particular state says.
You can't vote twice.
Well, I don't know what the law in the particular state says and when that vote becomes final.
Is there any state that says you can vote twice?
Well, there's some, maybe that you can change your vote up to a particular time. I don't know what the law is, so I'm not going to offer.
He was saying test the system.
If you know what he's saying, why are you asking me what he's saying?
He doesn't believe in the mail-in voting. You're the Attorney General of the United States.
Why does you? Yeah.
We haven't seen widespread fraud, but
so far we haven't tried it. Well, and the point is,
but a lot of us. There are several states that only have mail-in voting, including a Republican.
Well, this is playing with fire. This is playing with fire. We're a very closely divided country here. And if people have to have confidence in the results of the election and the legitimacy of the government, and people trying to change the rules to this methodology, which, as a matter of logic, is very open to fraud and coercion, is reckless and dangerous. And the people are playing with fire.
Well, I will point out there are 5 states that only have mail-in voting, including Utah and Colorado, Washington State, Oregon, Hawaii. And they've reported over the years they've had virtually no problems. But who's trying to change the rules right now?
I would say the people who want to go to mass mail-in ballots.
But you understand why. There is a coronavirus pandemic. Right. And there are a lot of people potentially, if they waited long lines when they go to the polls, they could get sick, especially older people or people with underlying conditions. As a result, a lot of people want to change the rules so they don't have to go wait in long lines. Well, they don't have to touch all this.
And the appropriate way to deal with that is, number one, arrangements at the polls that protect people, which can be done. And number two, people who have pre-existing conditions and are particularly vulnerable can get an absentee ballot. I have no problem with people. I voted by absentee ballot, not by mail. I actually went to the office to cast my vote, but absentee ballots are fine.
This is the Attorney General, the top law enforcement official in the United States of America, pretending on national television that in fact he's not quite sure if it's illegal to vote twice in a federal election. Yeah, and while we're at it, we should probably check if arson is illegal too. This utterly ridiculous claim came in the immediate aftermath of Trump's latest inane ramblings, this time encouraging his supporters to vote twice as a way to test the system in terms of discovering voter fraud.
600,000 people could vote by absentee in this state. Are you confident in that system?
Well, they'll go out and they'll vote, and they're going to have to go and check their vote by going to the poll and voting that way, because if it tabulates, then they won't be able to do that. So let them send it in and let them go vote. And if their system's as good as they say it is, then obviously they won't be able to vote. If it isn't tabulated, they'll be able to vote. So that's the way it is, and that's what they should do. I don't like the idea of these unsolicited votes. I never did. It leads to a lot of problems. They've got 11 problems already on very small contests, so I'm not happy about it. At the same time, we're in court on a lot of it. We're going to see if it can be stopped. But send in your ballots, send them in strong, whether it's solicited or unsolicited. The absentees are fine. We have to work to get them. It means something. And you send them in, but you go to vote. And if they haven't counted it, you can vote. So that's the way I view it.
So that we are unequivocally clear, voting twice is illegal. It is a felony. You will likely go to jail, and if history is any precedent, it'll be for a long time. In Texas, a woman illegally voted after getting out of prison, despite the fact that the state disenfranchises felons. She was sentenced to 5 years in prison, and that's the situation that Trump is putting his own supporters in. Although I guess I shouldn't be surprised, coming from the guy who's already encouraged his fans to ingest disinfectant and congregate together at rallies without masks. Gotta say, no one seems to hate Trump voters more than Donald Trump himself. But as for Bill Barr, while he might play dumb, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's running cover for Trump. Because while his job is to represent the law, in reality, Bill Barr's only there to protect his boss. And so one day he'll rail against mail-in voting because that's Trump's latest line of attack, and then the very next day, Well, suddenly come to think of it, he's not so sure if voting twice is illegal. He'd have to look at the state. Oh, it's not legal in any state? Well, how can we really know? We'll just have to go take a look. The law can be, complicated. Barr goes on to display this phony, righteous indignation that we have to have confidence in the election, and so leaving it vulnerable to massive rigging with mail-in ballots is simply out of the question. Only A, he ignores the fact that we already have states that conduct their elections entirely by mail, including Utah, which is not exactly a liberal bastion, and miraculously, voter fraud is virtually non-existent. And B, the issue of voter fraud around the country has been analyzed. According to a study by MIT, over the last 20 years, there have been 143 cases of voter fraud using mailed ballots. That comes out to 8 cases of fraud per year. And that comes out to an occurrence of 0.00006%. That is the rate of voter fraud. You couldn't rig a student government election with that rate of fraud. It should tell you something too, that what Bill Barr and Trump fail to realize is that the American people aren't trying to vote by mail as part of some coordinated effort to rig the election. This isn't some Antifa and deep state sponsored scheme to overthrow the government. The reason people are voting by mail is because a deadly pandemic is sweeping across the country, a pandemic that has already killed over 180,000 Americans. I know that the Trump administration is pretending that the pandemic is over, but it's not. And shockingly, it seems that people aren't too keen on contracting a deadly virus and passing it along to their loved ones. That is why people want to vote from the safety of their own homes. And the fact that no one in the Trump administration is capable of acknowledging that is why so many people have died in the first place. So Bill Barr will continue to play dumb and twist himself into pretzels trying to defend this lawless president. He might even convince Trump's supporters to go ahead and commit voter fraud. But he should probably be reminded that corrupt attorneys general have gone to prison too. While you're here, please subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I take a deeper dive into the week's biggest stories and interview major players in the world of politics, like Kamala Harris, Adam Schiff, Katie Porter, Nancy Pelosi, Cory Booker, Eric Swalwell, and many more. Again, that's No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.